Where are you? I don't even know where you're at. Oh, you're on second. Okay.
What's up, nerds? It's Titan here, and welcome back to Codex Review. Before we jump into it, I just want to let you all know that while a majority of the clips that you'll see today will be mine, there are several that do not belong to me. However, they are being used with the permission of their respective owners. Today, we're covering what may very well be one of my favorite games of all time, and definitely a break in the right direction for the FPS genre, Escape From Tarkov. Now, normally, I wouldn't start a review by telling you that a game is amazing, but in this instance, I may have to, just because the relationship between the average Tarkov player and Tarkov itself is far from a healthy one. Playing Tarkov is a lot like being in an abusive relationship. There are things you love about it, and you just can't walk away despite all the times Tarkov has done you wrong. Tarkov is a brutal experience. It's harsh and unforgiving. It's a teacher of patience and forces you to hone your skill through the most brutal of trials by fire. This is not a game that holds your hand, and definitely not a game that glorifies combat. Despite all of this, Tarkov is amazing. It may very well be one of the greatest FPSs ever developed, and sets the standard so high, it will be tough for anyone else to try and reach it. And to top it off, it's still in beta. So, what the hell is Tarkov? Tarkov is an FPS with survival elements, crafting, and a huge emphasis placed on looting. It's in a category unto itself, and thus is very hard to categorize the way that other games easily fit into those nice nooks and crannies. So before we begin discussing the ethereal, let's just jump into the gameplay. When you first start the game, you're treated to a choice with no context: Scav or PMC. So what's the difference? A Scav is a throwaway character that you can play once every 20 minutes with randomized gear, and your PMC is your main character that can actually level up and allows you to choose what gear you take with you into raids. This matters because gear is temporary. Nearly everything in Tarkov is temporary. Unlike the average modern shooter that holds your hand, Tarkov forces you to experiment and learn after every single failure. While a Scav allows you to play with a randomized set of low quality gear, for you to be allowed to keep that gear, or any other loot that you may find, you must successfully exfil from a raid, and that's where things can get tricky. Maps or levels in Tarkov are called raids, and when you load into them, there are a couple of key differences from most other shooters. First, you only ever get a single life. There will be no respawning. Second, surviving is not your objective. Escaping is. If you survive a raid, but the timer runs out and you've yet to escape, then it's game over for you, and everything you brought in and looted. Lastly, maps are populated by 3 different types of entities. PMCs, these are player-controlled main characters. Player Scavs, these are randomized characters that players control. And lastly, NPC Scavs, and these are randomized as well, however they're controlled by an NPC AI. When a raid begins, all the PMCs spawn at the start of the raid. However, Scavs can continue to spawn throughout the course of a raid. Every single raid is dangerous, and unlike the more and more common bullet sponges of the modern FPS, a single well-placed round of good ammunition can be enough to end your existence. And this will happen to you a lot. Death is a very common experience in Tarkov, and the average player often struggles to break a 35% survival rating. Once in raid, things get interesting. Your first instinct may be to run like a madman, and that is an option. However, Tarkov presents you with more control over your character than any other shooter I have ever played. You can, in detail, control your walking speed, crouching speed, and your crouch height. Modifying your crouch height is immensely useful when you're trying to rise just high enough to fire over some improvised cover, but still remain mostly covered. Similarly, constantly modifying your speed is important, because the speed that you are moving and the material that you happen to be moving over affects the range that the sound you are creating carries. And sound is important. Sound can inform enemy players and even NPCs of your presence, and in Tarkov, as in life, often, the person who first sees the enemy combatant will win the firefight. While not a guarantee, being the first person to spot someone else allows you to dictate an engagement or even choose if you want to fight it at all, and this allows you to seize the initiative. There are so many tools provided to you to allow you to do just that, from contacts, which are sound-enhancing headsets that allow you to hear sound far more clearly even at a distance, to tools such as night vision, which can give you an edge during night raids when entire maps can be nearly pitch black. This is where the difference between the PMC and the Scav becomes the most evident. With the PMC, you choose what weapon you want to use as well as the equipment you want to take with you, from helmets and armor to contacts and gun modifications. Perhaps the single most amazing part of Tarkov is the level of difficulty and detail. The level to which you can modify guns is amazing, and as such takes some understanding of weapons and their operations. You can change every aspect of a weapon, from its upper receiver to the handguards, gas block, optic, and pistol grip. Everything can be changed, and this allows you to create a weapon that perfectly suits your needs or desires, and you can tailor your weapon for any given goal. The attention to detail does not end here. There are a wide range of ammunitions in the game, each with its own characteristics. Understanding how the ammunition and your weapon react differently to different types of armor is also key. While this may sound complex, and in truth it is, it also leads to a divergent set of gameplay experiences that always change. No two raids will ever be alike, and as such, Tarkov will never suffer from the boredom that comes with the constant repetition found in many other titles. It allows you to learn and modify your strategy on the fly. If, for example, you happen to have a low caliber ammunition that has a poor armor penetration but does high flesh damage, and someone turns the corner wearing heavy armor, it's a much better choice to shoot them in the legs as opposed to the chest or the head, where their armor will drastically reduce the effectiveness of your ammo. Tarkov also takes a different approach to the health of a player. Each limb has its own damage tracked separately, and each one can be damaged beyond the point of use or blacked out, as it is referred to in Tarkov. Combat will wear down any character's ability to continue on in the battle, as limbs are blacked out and the player incurs medical conditions such as, but not limited to, bleeding, tremors, fractures, and pain. To treat and restore these effects requires a veritable surgical suite of equipment, such as bandages, first aid kits, field surgery kits, painkillers, splints, and other medical equipment. Most conditions can be corrected in the field. However, over time, your total health of limbs and overall health will be reduced as you attempt to treat your injuries. The level of realism here is truly astounding. If you happen to have a fractured leg and attempt to walk on it, your character will grunt in pain, creating even more noise. As you're taking damage, there will be audible cues that can inform both you as well as enemy players. If your limbs are fractured or blacked out, your ability to stabilize a weapon and control recoil will be dramatically reduced, and ultimately, if you are unprepared to treat the injuries you may receive as a result of battle, Even if you survive, you will be left a useless husk of a soldier that can do nothing and go nowhere, doomed to die in the god-forsaken city of Tarkov. Characters also have individual energy and hydration levels that must be maintained with food and water. Later on, additional updates will have the upcoming poison and radiation levels that must be monitored and maintained. In Tarkov, winning a fight is just as important as being able to properly care for yourself and render first aid. If you win and manage to load yourself up with fat loot, but are unable to escape, then the victory meant nothing.
Should I frag before they frag us? One's down. Frag out.
In so many ways, Tarkov is reminiscent of the hardcore games that have drawn the most loyal and dedicated player bases, such as EVE Online. Tarkov is not for the faint of heart, and not for the players that can barely manage to provide a 30-second attention span to a game like Call of Duty. Tarkov is for the hardcore, the patient, the dedicated, the intelligent, the driven, and most of all, the masochists. If the idea of spending 30 minutes in a match without firing a shot and then dying to a single bullet from someone you never saw without being able to respawn bothers you, then Tarkov quite simply is not for you. If the mere notion of having to carry a surgery suite's worth of medical equipment to treat a wound caused by a single bullet bothers you, turn back now. Nothing is forever, there are no guarantees, there are no gods, there is no mercy, there is only Tarkov, and Tarkov hates you. Tarkov is a Unity game, and it may very well be the flagship Unity game. As someone who does hobbyist game dev and has used Unity a great deal myself, it is actually amazing to see such a successful and beautiful game being built on Unity. The graphics in this game are amazing. The detail of every single weapon and component of each weapon, down to the environments and the dynamic nature of much of the game. This is likely the best looking Unity game I've personally seen. The devs have put real elbow grease into each and every model and texture, and I think they deserve a real hat tip from each and every one of us, because the product, even in beta, is amazing, and I can't wait to see what it's going to look like as a final product after a few more years of work. The environments fit so well with the theme of the game as well. From the dark and trashed interiors of the Interchange Mall to the high-tech industrial hallways of labs, and of course, the abandoned base and complex on Reserve. Each map is unique and fits the theme of Tarkov perfectly. Without exception, there is nothing that you can find in Tarkov that strays from that core theme of the title. Sound design in Tarkov is damn near unparalleled. The game sounds amazing at every turn, from the ambient noise to the weapons and everything in between. The devs have put so much care and love into the game insofar as sound is concerned that it's amazing that there is a game at all. Even the materials you walk on, such as metal or wood, have their own unique noises and are affected by the speed that you walk over them with. It is nothing short of a labor of love in every aspect, though it is also not without its failings. Keeping in mind that Tarkov is still in beta, as the game stands now, it is still using an older stereo-based sound system, which can be limiting in more than a few ways, and actually requires that you modify a range of settings, both in-game as well as your own respective headphone softwares, to gain a decent level of directional sound. Though the devs are currently working on transitioning to Steam Audio, which will provide 3D sound and modernize the game in terms of sound. To my understanding, this transition is the next big focus of the devs, and I believe it will raise Tarkov to a nearly godlike status in the community. Now, before I transition into bugs and fixes, there's one final thing I feel must be said here. The way that each weapon sounds different and unique and accurate to their real-life counterparts is astonishing. The sound design team for Tarkov truly deserves recognition for the amazing work that they have done in nearly every aspect of the game's sound design. Tarkov is filled with bugs. It's to be expected for a game in beta, and at many times forgivable. But the amount of bugs present in Tarkov is astounding from nearly every approach. As it stands, the devs have recently fixed the long-time issue with queue times and server stability that were caused by an influx of new players. However, so many bugs have remained despite numerous updates. One incredibly common bug is the result of either poor physics or bad model meshes, and can often cause grenades to bounce back after making contact with nothing other than seemingly thin air, or at other times even bouncing off solid surfaces in a way that should not be possible, and then passing through other solid objects. Grenades are one of the most important tools in Tarkov, and are used very frequently, which just makes the current state of bugginess even more obvious to even inexperienced players. Server stability is often another common complaint, and at some point in your Tarkov journey, I guarantee you will see the dreaded server connection lost error message. This is just the best case, because in the worst, you will remain connected to a server and shoot entire mags into the heads of immobile players, only for the server to catch up and find that the immobile player has moved around you and just shot you in the back of the head, leaving you no chance. I personally find it easy to forgive the bugs because of the clear love that has been put into the game, and the reality that it is still in beta. However, losing gear as a result of bugs and not fair play can be very discouraging to many players. That is actually a great segue into an issue that I just can't release an honest review without covering. The biggest issue in Tarkov is not, in fact, the bugs. The biggest issue in Tarkov as it stands is actually cheaters. Cheating is more common in Tarkov than any other game I have ever played, and at some point, without fail, you will encounter hackers. Hackers in Tarkov are on a level unlike anything I have seen before. Speed hackers are fairly common. However, recently, there has been a hack that has been released that allows players to pull items out of thin air from across the map, which has led to a growing amount of clips of items just disappearing before players can even loot them fairly. And it has also been reported that items can be pulled directly from player inventories. even after they have been looted. For the average Tarkov player, playing with cheaters is just a reality you have to work around, and so long as you don't spend all your time on labs, you won't encounter too many of them, which is good news. The bad news is that the devs are very tight-lipped when it comes to addressing or even discussing the issues with hackers in Tarkov, leaving many players feeling like the issue has gone unaddressed, and without any mechanic for reporting cheaters, many players feel as though they don't have any recourse when they are the victim of hackers. It is also fair to note that the devs have done quite a bit to combat hacking and cheating in Tarkov since the release of the first public beta, and it is my hope that they will continue to make these same efforts to deal with hackers as the development of the game continues. In conclusion, Tarkov is, in my opinion, the single greatest FPS I have ever played in my entire life, and the mere experience of playing it leaves me wondering why no one thought to make a similar game in the entire history of gaming prior to its creation. The true crime here may very well be that the world has been deprived of Tarkov for so long. The attention to detail, quality of gameplay, amazing graphics, groundbreaking sound design, and stellar community makes Tarkov an easy buy for any gamer who appreciates this type of game. If you're interested, then go buy Tarkov right now, because there are no words for how amazing an experience is waiting for you on the other side of that fence. I could sit here for another 6 hours trying to explain, and it would still never truly do it justice. Tarkov is an experience that you just have to have yourself, and to deprive yourself of it is a true loss. Despite the flaws, the bugs, and the cheaters, I can confidently recommend this game to anyone who enjoys hardcore shooters, because I know that both myself and all of my friends who have to deal with all of those issues still find ourselves playing Tarkov nearly every day and enjoying almost every minute of it. 1,000 plus hours in and still going strong is the definitive mark of a good game. Tarkov never gets old. So always remember, trust no one, grenades are your friends, chain link fence is the best armor, and perhaps most importantly, Tarkov hates you. Alright guys, that's all I've got for you today. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give it a like. If you haven't already, the subscription helps us out immensely. And as always, if you have a comment or a question, both for the community as a whole or myself directly, please don't hesitate to drop a comment in the comments section down below, or hit the Discord link in the description and join the community Discord where you can speak directly with myself or other members of the community. As always guys, stay safe and be careful out there. Thanks for watching.